The button on Google Hangouts, when you click it, it says start broadcast.
I'm
but
sorry,
we are not
what was that word?
broadcast.
No, before that.
The button.
The
The
button?
button that I press when we start recording an episode of Game Life Balance US.
What the hell is a button?
It says start broadcast on the button.
What is a button?
Now, we are a podcast, not a broadcast. We do not cast broadly, we cast podly. So the button, I feel,
What is a button?
I am a Joe, should read start podcast or start recording, perhaps. I think those...
There are two T's in that word, and you're literally ignoring both of them.
So now that I have pressed the start broadcast button, even though we are not broadcasting, I guess we'll just do the podcast as a broadcast. Or are we doing the broadcast as a podcast?
That is not at all how you pronounce that word.
So now that I, Cody Goff, have hit the button, you, Jonathan Martin, are welcome to join me in this episode of Game Life Balance US in what I think will be a visual soiree of delectables.
A decoupage, if you will.
A decoupage, if you will. And I shall, in fact, do that. I wish I had a decoupage button. That would be impressive.
I still don't think you're pronouncing that word right. Yeah, I feel like we took a week off, and it was nice not to see you. It was nice not to see you. It was weird though. I mean, this is like because this is such like a Tuesday routine thing, like it almost kind of screwed up my whole week in terms of like my planning. Because like when you go into like dad mode and like husband and dad mode, like your schedule becomes very set. Like I have a very set schedule now, so it was very disruptive. That was very nice of you to take a vacation on me. Thank you for disrupting everything.
Anytime. And I should apologize to our audience for not giving anyone a heads up that we were going to be off last week. That was a rarity. That is the first week we've not posted something since we debuted Game Life Balance US.
That said, though, you had this vacation planned for a while, right?
Yeah, I just didn't plan on doing anything with the podcast.
Before we go any further, though, I should probably say someone here had a birthday, and he turned 47 years old. So I want to say happy birthday to you for turning 47. It does make it even creepier as the years go on that you're hanging out with high school kids still.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're just going to let that fly. You're going to be that guy. Mm-hmm. You've already kind of come to terms with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, you really did have a birthday. And it was...
Well, thank you. I did have a birthday.
It was the big 3-1 for you.
Maybe.
Yeah, I've kind of lost track of my age as well.
Yeah, I tell my agent I can do 25 to 35.
That's about it. Your agent?
Yeah, my agent, my acting agent.
Like secret agent man?
No, my acting agent.
Also, before we go further, I should say, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but there is a 99% chance that there's going to be some serious screams from my son tonight, and I'll tell you why in a bit. He'll be going to bed in like 10-ish. There he is right now, in like 5 to 10 minutes. But yeah, there's going to be some tears for the next foreseeable future.
Wow, I love when Max makes cameos on the podcast, though. I gotta say,
just his voice, really.
Well, because you've got to play those right when he's in high school or something.
And look what you did! You ruined Daddy. You ruined Daddy's hobby. Thank you.
Right. It's got to be some real kind of like when my sister yesterday posted a photo of us from when we were very little, and 180 some people liked it. Did you see that?
No.
Oh, because you don't go on regular Facebook. You only use the Facebook Groups app.
I do.
Okay, cool. Well, I am not going to reshare it, but Hannah shared...
I think they were probably liking the picture of her, right? I think we can both assume that.
No, we can... I don't know, but it's the most I've seen fewer likes on I've just gotten engaged posts. It's like bizarre, but I think it's because I have long flowing hair in it as I used to do, and we both look utterly awful. Actually, she doesn't look that bad. I look pretty awful in it. That's probably why it got like, I don't know. It's, you got to see it. You had to be there.
You looked pretty awful with that hair.
It looks pretty awesome with that hair. I know. Yes, thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. Yeah, so what are we talking about today?
Oh, yeah, we're talking about a lot of things. Well, we're not going to talk about video games much because we have, this is Game Life Balance U.S. Sometimes we talk games. The last few weeks, we actually got kind of game heavy. So we're gonna pull back. We're gonna talk. Are you ready for this? I'm starting to like wave my head around because I'm ready to say it. We're gonna talk live stuff. Live stuff. Live stuff. Live stuff. See how terrible it looks when you do the echo yourself? This is why I tell you every week not to do the echo. The echo.
Does it look like that when I do it? I don't think it does.
It does. Your head like rotates several times. It's very strange. I don't know why you do it. But there you go.
So I feel like the life stuff that you're going to talk about is kind of like the meat and potatoes of the podcast.
No. What I talk about is the meat. What you talk about is the potatoes.
Well, I was thinking I would talk about the salad before the meal. Because I believe that you were going to represent both the meat and or the potatoes.
Interesting. But then if you're the salad, then you should go first. What if you're the carrots?
That's what I'm saying. I should probably go first.
Oh. Well, the name of your segment isn't life stuff.
No,
the name of your segment is...
That's why I'm disappointed that you introed it as life stuff. No, the name of my segment is The Joy of Parenting. Oh. Was that pretty good? It was all right.
You sounded really overjoyed. You should call it the overjoyed of parenting with all of that enthusiasm you had.
So Max, my son, just turned 2, as in like 2-ish weeks ago.
Happy birthday.
A month and 2 weeks ago. Sorry. In mid-February. And Casey and I have been talking, and we're like, we're going to do the big boy bed at 2 years old. Like, that's what we're going to do. He needs to transition into that. Like, now is the time. That Andy had already climbed out of his crib. So it's like, when they start doing that, you kind of have to consider transitioning them to a bed, because otherwise they're going to fall out of their crib and hurt themselves. So we got the bed. I put it together. We put it in the room. And that was just over the weekend, like last Friday. And so the interesting thing about a big boy bed after your son has been in a crib is that when he wakes up, there's nothing holding him in. So he just has the ability to get out of bed, kind of do whatever he wants. Now, we also installed a light switch extender for him. So he actually knows how and can turn on and off the light in his room as well. So, we were a little nervous at first, and you can probably see why, that like he was going to wake up and get into trouble in there. We even locked down the furniture so that it couldn't fall in case he decided he wanted to climb on stuff. So we've bolted the furniture to the walls so that he is less in danger of hurting himself. But I mean, if you think about it, if we're asleep and he wakes up at 5 o'clock, I mean, we're not going to wake up. And he could climb on top of his dresser if he wanted to and fall off of that. And like, we wouldn't know until he started screaming. So it's a little scary as a parent to like make this transition. So we did it. And the first couple of nights, this is about like the 4th night now. And like the first 2 nights, it was scream, scream, scream. And I'm going to immediately get out of bed. And I'm going to scream some more. And this would go on for like 20 minutes. We would do the dance of, I'm going to go back in there and put you back into bed. And then I'm going to come out again. And then I'm going to go back in there and put you to bed, etc. Tonight, my wife just put him to bed, and he actually seems to be doing pretty well. The interesting thing is that in the mornings, he like didn't get up out of bed, which is like the whole thing about being in a big boy bed now, is that like we assumed he was going to get up and just kind of play by himself in the morning. he sleeps like an extra half an hour to an hour in this bed now, which is like the craziest thing. So he seems like he sleeps better in this bed than he did in his crib. So that was over the first couple of nights. Now this last night, just last night for the first time, when we woke up, he was hopping around his room. Just hop. And he says hop when he hops. So it was just him. We just were like watching him on the baby monitor, and he would just go hoppa, hoppa. And each time he said hop, he would just jump around the room. And he was just jumping around the room. He did that for like a half an hour.
Your baby monitor has a camera?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you can watch him. It's actually kind of awesome. But yeah, it's just him hopping around the room. So it was pretty hilarious. He's a total goofball. He's totally goofy. So I'll keep you posted as to how this is going. But so far, the first couple of nights have been real hairy. Tonight seems like it has gone slightly better just from what I can hear in the background. But yeah, it's stressful. Like you kind of like take that kind of thing for granted. You're like, oh yes, I as an adult male am going to sleep in a normal sized bed. But you kind of take for granted like your kid doesn't. And then when you have to make that transition, it's kind of a scary thing. You froze. Your computer broke. It didn't. It is destroyed. Yeah, you're froze. I don't think it's my internet. I really don't. My whole internet is loaded. Everything is loaded. Are you back?
I'm back. Surprise.
That was excellent. That was very, very good. And I think we're still live. So that was probably just me sitting there staring off into space for a while. Good job. Good job, you. Anyway, as if we never left, it's a scary transition. Because you just kind of take that kind of thing for granted when you're an adult.
No, I caught most of it, except for the very tail end.
Yeah.
I was probably gone for about 30 seconds. So, well, that is frightening with the whole human being thing. Over the last week, I spent a lot of time with our friend Logan, who also has a small child.
He does. I have not met yet.
It's a bit younger than Max, a bit younger than your kid, and has also somewhat recently entered the phase of. I remember on this podcast or on a podcast that we did together, you explained how your son learned how to run. He didn't learn how to walk. He just learned how to run. And a child's job then becomes to run as fast as possible into things to injure himself.
It's more they learn how to walk, but then as soon as they learn how to run, then they stop walking forever. Like they just don't walk anymore.
Yeah, so that's kind of the phase that she was in somewhat recently. So we spent a lot of time there, and yeah, they get scared of, the parents naturally get scared of, like, we don't want anything to happen that's damaging to our human being that we're in charge of. So I cannot imagine what that's like, nor will I anytime soon, because I have no children of my own, nor a wife, nor
any prospects.
I like hanging out with college kids.
You do.
That's pretty much it.
You're only getting older.
And they stay the same age.
Closer to death. High five. So that's all I got. But really, this episode was kind of supposed to be about you. So you were just on vacation.
Really, my life is all about me, Jonathan.
Yeah, I know. Trust me. So you were on vacation, and you decided you're going for a week. Is that right? Like a week and a half?
I was on vacation, and I guess you could say that to me that was Life stuff.
Life stuff. Life stuff.
Thanks for the echo, John.
Life stuff.
Yeah, my girlfriend is a high school teacher, so she gets a week off for spring break, which is awesome.
Like by default, like don't have to take it as vacation. You just get a week off, right?
Right, which is great.
It's pretty sweet.
So I was like, well, cool, you got a week off. How about I take a week off? I had to expend vacation days, which really sucks, but whatever. So we wanted to do something outdoorsy / warm because I wanted to prove to her that I do actually like being outside when it's nice and there's cool stuff to do. I actually quite enjoy hiking, and I've been backpacking before. I'm surprisingly into outdoorsy nature-like activities. Everybody thinks I'm just, and I don't always even like going outside in Chicago, but that's not nature. But if you we visited my brother Zach in Montana when he was in college, and I would not go inside. I was just outside all over the place, and this is like middle school. So I like outdoorsy stuff. We looked at a bunch of places. I really want to go to Utah someday because when I drove through it on a road trip a few years back, it's like the most beautiful part of the country, I think. But alas,
there's a lot of white people there.
Are there?
It stays whiter out later in Utah.
Oh, right, because Bernie won Utah. Yeah, that's right.
A lot of white people.
Yeah, I heard Alaska and Hawaii are 100% white now too.
There's legitimately a lot of white people in Utah. It's a very white state. It just is.
Especially after Bernie won.
That's exactly right. But especially after Bernie won. It got whiter. It stayed whiter out later.
I don't know what that means. So we decided Colorado. All right, Colorado is a good, affordable middle ground because we could stay with my cousins out there. Our friend Logan's out there. We could stay places. We set up a cool thing, and then we stayed there for a week. It was great. And it was weird.
You picked Colorado specifically, you're saying, because of the friends being there and because you knew other people there, because you had
yes,
there, right?
Which made it then more cheap and affordable.
Right. Okay.
It was mostly utilitarian. I know that obviously weed is legal there, but that actually wasn't a major factor.
Okay.
Because let's be honest, I'm in Chicago. If I wanted drugs, I'll go to the people that sell drugs.
The crack house down the street.
What are they called? The crack houses. I'd go to the crack houses.
I believe they call them drug dealers.
If I wanted if I wanted to buy a couple marijuanas, I would talk to a drug dealer, a man who deals in those, or woman, or anything in between, or on outside the spectrum of gender.
It is a gender neutral term. It is not dealer and dealerette. It is just dealer.
Are you sure?
Well, no, not 100%. Fairly certain.
Okay. Mr. Dealer. What if it's Mr. Dealer?
Mr. Dealerette. It could be
Then it could be Mrs. or Mrs.
Or a transsexual. It doesn't matter. Anyone can deal.
We don't discriminate on Game Life Balance U.S.,
we don't,
especially if you're selling us drugs.
No, we don't at all. So you were in Colorado where weed is legal.
Yeah, let's talk about weed a whole lot.
Okay.
Because I'm going to spare you and everybody else. I mean, I went hiking a couple days. It was beautiful. I went to a bunch of coffee shops. I seriously went to 12 coffee shops when I was there. You could probably still tell I have some caffeine in me. It was wonderful. It was 60 degrees a couple of days we were there. It was snowing heavily a couple of days we were there. So inside, outside, it was great. Cool. That was Cody's trip. I also went to marijuana dispensaries.
Like multiple of them.
Multiple of them.
Okay.
And they are the coolest thing. And if any lawmaker in Washington took a trip to Denver and went to the Green Solution, which is the name of a company that I will definitely buy stock in if they ever go public. Definitely. And go to the Green Solution and get help there and buy weed, or even not buy weed or whatever, that lawmaker would walk out and say, okay, let's legalize marijuana. Colorado's just did an amazing job. So what do you know about Colorado's legalization?
I know that there are now more people in jail in Colorado than ever before. I know it is a hyper-violent state that nobody should travel to. Frankly, I'm surprised you got out alive. I know that if you've smoked 2 marijuanas, it can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So
And your family.
I've been told that before. I've heard that basically, from what I understand, they've made a lot of money, and there hasn't been a lot of. I mean, it's a very new thing. It's only been out as a legal drug there for 2 years now. So maybe not even that. Maybe it's been like a year and a half.
No, it's been 2 years.
It's been 2 years. And so like in terms of like the grand scheme of time of laws, especially like legalization of drugs, it's probably kind of hard to get an idea of what sort of like long-term ramifications there have been. But as of right now, it just seems like it's mostly positive, that there's been a lot of money that has been taxed and gone into schools. That was like the majority of the original deal, was that if they were going to do this, the taxes were going to go to schools up to like a certain amount of millions of dollars. And I think they already hit that. And I think generally it's considered now like a tourist attraction there as well. They sell it in dispensaries, like you said. That's like what I know about it.
Okay, yeah, that's so. According to my cousin, he said that Colorado is pretty much drowning in money right now. With how much you said that they were the taxes were supposed to go to education up to a certain amount. Well, he said they hit that amount.
I thought it was like $80 million. It was a very large amount of money.
I think it was in the hundreds of millions, but I'm not sure. But he said with the excess taxes, and this may have been an exaggeration, but the state he says the state essentially said, yeah, we have enough extra tax revenue basically to give everybody $20 back. So here's a referendum. Do you want us to do that? Or I don't know, have like $100 million for roads or whatever it was. And he said, yes, everybody voted for roads. So now we have really good infrastructure. And that was kind of it. Like there was so much money that they had surpassed the amount that they had said they were allowed to take from the dispensaries or something. So like it actually got to the point where they were like, well, we might have to give some back to the dispensaries because there's so much obviously the government figured out how to move some stuff around to spend it on whatever they wanted, because that's what governments do. But yeah, it's gone great. It's very, very highly regulated. So let me describe to you the pot buying experience.
Yeah. What if I am average Joe Jonathan Martin? That would be a really dumb name, but I mean, you'd probably think I wasn't legally buying weed if I went in with that name. Let's just say I went in as Jonathan Martin. What would my experience be like?
Right. So walk into the green. So first of all, we pull up to the Green Solution, and it's in a tiny strip mall, like where it looked like kind of where Magna used to be in Rockford. Do you remember Magna?
That big of a place?
No. But you know that strip mall where there's a Taekwondo place and the cleaners, the dry cleaners?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's basically like that. Like we pull up and it's literally a dollar store, a liquor store, a laundromat, like a coffee shop or something like that. Probably some Chinese place, I think, and then a dispensary. So it's super normal. It's not like this is from another planet. You walk in and it's just a tiny reception area with a girl at a desk, and she takes your IDs and puts you in some kind of system or whatever and says, okay, great, your bud tender will be with you in a moment. Just walk right in and wait.
It's adorable.
So this is an industry term. It's an actual industry term. They used bud tender at every dispensary we went to.
Okay.
So maybe sounds like
it makes sense. There's a bartender.
Yeah, it maybe sounds like a stupid pun. And so you walk in. So there's this like steel door. We open it, we walk in, and it's like an Apple store for weed. This is the Green Solution. Other places weren't as flashy, but they had a display they had a glass case that's 3 tiers high. And in it, you could see the bud. You could actually see some of the buds of a marijuana strain with a name next to it on a little name plate that had a small description of it. And then an iPad. And on the iPad screen, it had the exact chemical breakdown of that strain.
An iPad next to each individual strain?
Next to each one. There were about 20 strains.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, there were about 20 strains, and there were
almost as little unnecessary.
It was unbelievable. So it for each one, there are two main families of marijuana. There's indica and sativa. Indica is, in the last bud tender we met, it gave us the best way on earth to remember it. Indica is into couch. You smoke indica and you sink into couch. It's a chill out, I'm gonna pass out kind of thing. And sativa is more of a head high, he describes it, and that's, you're kind of more awake. So indica is kind of the downer weed, and sativa is kind of the upper weed in terms of energy level, even though they do the same thing. So not only does it break down indica and sativa, most are hybrids, so it'll say 90-10 or 80-20, whatever, indica sativa, but then it also breaks down 10 or 12 chemicals that I've never heard of. I don't know what they are. They're all the weird little like sub things. So we walk in, there's those. And then if you walk over a little further, there must have been literally 50 different types of wax or shatter. Wax is...
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, wax you basically cook with, right? So you can take a little thing of wax. It's wax. It's like earwax, I want to say, but less gross, of course. It's usually a couple little balls of wax, and you can melt that with butter or olive oil, let's say, and cook with it. Or there are certain apparatuses that let you smoke with it. And then shatter is similar to wax, but it's, I think, more highly concentrated. And again, you smoke with different apparatuses. There's several different ways to smoke. In addition to bud, which is you basically light on fire, use like a cigarette, there's the wax and shatter and very highly concentrated forms of weed that you basically have to heat up super high, and you can smoke. There's a thing called dabbing. There are vape pens that only smoke this resin that you get. So there's lots of different forms of ingesting weed.
It's very complicated.
It was very complicated. And the bud tender walks you through the entire process and answers any questions you have. I imagine this is part of the weed regulation process. I imagine the state lawmakers said, all right, look, we're going to make it legal, but when you walk into a dispensary, a person has to show you around personally and explain everything to you so you know exactly what's going on, exactly what the risks are, exactly what the product does, exactly how to consume it, because it was very uniform at all the places. Our bud tender was a Southern lass named Winona, because of course she was, and she was phenomenal. She could have sold us a car if she really wanted to, and she showed us through all this stuff. And we ended up getting some bud, and they explained to you what the different strains do. The big thing in all the dispensaries is they'll have a giant jar, of 2 pounds of weed, and they'll unscrew it and they have you smell it. And what Winona told us was, listen to your body. If you smell it and you like it, then you'll probably want to smoke it. And if it smells bad, then you probably don't want to smoke it. Which I thought was fair. So yeah, I look at it and I go, hey, there's a strain called Death Star. I've heard that the Star Wars themed strains are pretty popular. Let's try that. So she takes the Death Star and holds up a little can to me, and I unscrews the top and I smell it and I go, cool, Death Star smells good. I'll get some of that. They have pieces there that you can smoke out of, that, of course, lighters and things like that. Lots of merchandise. And then we went and checked out. And the final thing they have is edibles. Lots of edibles, and edibles are becoming a really, really popular thing.
Like all over the place? We're talking like coolers and baked goods and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we're talking so you can still, from what I can tell, only purchase edibles at dispensaries. And right now in Colorado, by the way, you get your weed and everything in a sealed bag, and you're supposed to not open it till you get home. So there's no public consumption of weed. It's just like alcohol. Same thing. So no open containers in your car, no half smoked bowls in your car, right? So it's all tightly wrapped. But the edibles sold at dispensaries are becoming more and more diverse in terms of what you can get. So we bought a chocolate bar that's just like a Hershey's chocolate bar, but it's got a bunch of weed in it, and it's supposed to taste the same as a chocolate bar. But you have 1 square of it in your high. They've actually standardized a serving size of weed for ingesting, and so what happens when you ingest weed is, because the way it's cooked down, it's essentially what I've been told is pure THC, which is the primary ingredient that makes weed, right? THC, it's going to give you pretty much the same high no matter what you're eating, but they've standardized it to 10 milligrams of THC in an edible is 1 serving. So you can get, actually we got an iced coffee that they just released 3 days before we went there. It's brand new product, iced coffee. It's just a little bottle and there's 10 milligrams of THC in it. So you drink an iced coffee and you're high. They had a root beer bottle that had 17 servings of THC in it.
Jesus.
So yeah, so
in one root beer bottle.
Yeah. So the bud tender said, "Yeah, my friend and I accidentally split one night, and we couldn't function like at all." So that was pretty funny. But yeah, they have chocolate bars, they have hard candies, they have little pastries, there's brownies, there's cookies, it's all individually wrapped. And gummies, very popular, very delicious, all really good. Okay. So that's all the products that are available. And you walk through and the experience is unbelievable. You're being helped the whole time. They're very transparent about everything. They tell you the prices of everything. And let's just say it was a little more economically efficient than buying weed off the streets in major cities.
Give me an idea of pricing. Let's say average Joe Jonathan Martin went in there and wanted to buy weed. He wanted to buy one weed. How much would he have to pay? So I have no idea what pricing is normally like for marijuana, but I'm interested. So tell me how much it would cost to go in and buy weed.
All right, I'm looking through my wallet and my receipts because I want to remember. So there was a place where I got 1 gram of Black Raspberry Kush was the name of the strain. Black Raspberry Kush. 1 gram was $14.50.
And now there are how many grams in an ounce? Isn't that how marijuana is normally sold?
Yeah, I never really got go with the conversion. I believe it was crap. I'm not gonna remember this. I don't remember exactly. But a gram is like 3 small buds, which if you grind up will probably let you smoke, I don't know, a lot. I hope you're Googling it right now because I can't remember.
1 ounce is 28.34 grams.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it was around the range of like, actually I have my receipt from the Korean solution. This will tell me. Yeah, the conversions were tricky because they kind of talk about it in ounces and in grams, which can get a little confusing. Here we go. The green solution. So what did I pay for? I paid $36 for an 1/8 of Grape Escape.
Okay.
So $36 for an 1/8, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know if that's high or low, actually.
I don't either.
But I got that. I also got a key lime truffle for $2.50. It was like a little truffle, individually sealed, and it tasted like key lime pie.
That's
and I
one serving.
And I was high.
Okay.
So you can get high for like $2 or $3, generally.
Interesting.
Not expensive. Cheaper than a beer, really, or about the same price.
About the same. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, and actually, the root beer that we got was, I thought it was $15, but I don't see it on this receipt.
You did buy the root beer that had 17 servings in it?
I did buy the root beer that had 17 servings in it, but I can't find it on this receipt. Maybe we got it for free. Maybe we lucked out. I doubt it, but whatever. The root beer was $18, but that had a ton of servings in it. So,
right.
Between like $1 and $3 for a serving, basically, depending on how you're consuming it. We also had to buy a piece there because we didn't have anything to smoke with, obviously. So I purchased a $5 crappy little bubbler. Do you know what bubbler is?
It uses water, I would assume.
Correct. So there's like straight pieces that are basically like a cigarette, right? So a bubbler is, you put water in a chamber. It's usually shaped curved like a saxophone. So you breathe in the top and then it curves down and then up slightly where you put the bowl. You light the bowl and you inhale it. Well, because I got a $5 crappy one, it was a really small bubbler, which is fine. But because of the way it curves and you smoke it like it's straight in front of you, the bowl was close and I have a giant nose. So I had to turn my head to avoid lighting my nose on fire whenever I smoked out of the bubbler. And it was a little awkward all week.
Now, did you get to bring that home?
No.
I suppose I suppose we can talk about travel home at the end of the trip.
Yeah, but go ahead.
So you had a good time walking through these dispensaries. You went to multiple then, and kind of they were all set up the same way, and you bought from multiple of them as well.
Yeah, the reason I bought from multiple of them is because I really wanted. So there are different strains available at all of them. I mentioned Death Star, and I've heard there is like a whole family of Star Wars themed weed, and I've heard that Jedi is really, really good weed. And I had never heard of Death Star, but I knew it was Star Wars. So I got Death Star, and Death Star is definitely my favorite that I smoked. It was really fun. We got Black Raspberry Kush. We got I wrote it down in a bookmark of this book. Aha! I'm so glad that everything I own is within an arm's reach of me. We bought. Good Lord. Maybe I can't find the. Darn it! Oh, there it is. Sorry, I have to reference this for accuracy. Wow, no, I can't find it. I hope my girlfriend kept it. Nope, here it is. I'm just gonna go through every book I own. I brought a bunch of. I brought a lot of books. I brought a lot of books with me to Colorado to read, and apparently cannot find the one bookmark that actually details what we bought. But we got Black Raspberry Kush, we got Death Star, we got a couple other ones. We got Jilly Bean, and there was one other one. But we experimented a little with sativa versus indica, and I mean we didn't like spend the whole time smoking. We would do it about once a day. But it was nice. It was fun. So I shouldn't say we actually. I shouldn't say we. I should say I did. Because my girlfriend really doesn't like smoking because it hurts your throat and stuff like that. So she had a couple gummies and like those.
So tell me about the culture of now this being a state with legal marijuana. So did you meet other people traveling that were like partaking in this because it's legal in Colorado? Were there a lot of natives there that were frequenters of dispensaries as they would be frequenters of bars in other parts of the country? Like, how does it fit into the culture there now?
So it's not a really active part of the public culture, I think, because again, it's not legal to smoke outside. So we spent hours in coffee shops and bookstores, but we didn't see any, no one's lighting up. I didn't smell much smoke anywhere. People are pretty respectful of the law about it, I guess. Mm-hmm. So people are mostly doing this in their homes. In terms of in the dispensaries, like I said, we went to several and we only saw, there was usually only one other customer at any of the dispensaries we went to. I mean, they weren't packed. So
how many are there? Like, were you just driving by dispensary after dispensary, or are they few and far between? Did you have to travel?
No, we were in so we went to downtown Denver for a day, and there were probably, figure a downtown area like maybe downtown Minneapolis. Is downtown Minneapolis bigger than downtown Indianapolis?
Yes.
Okay, so that maybe a downtown Minneapolis, let's say, maybe 8.
Okay.
Kind of spread around different blocks. But in the northern suburb where we were, there were maybe 3 kind of spread out.
Okay.
So they don't outnumber Starbucks for sure. I would say not super dense. We were in the greater Denver area. Boulder, there were a few, but not a ton. Usually 1 or 2 to serve a population of 50 to 100,000. Very rough estimate. I don't know. Not a ton, and not probably a ton of competition, I don't think, because they all have, like, again, different strains. There's also recreational dispensaries and medical dispensaries, and then dispensaries that do both. So apparently medical grade stuff is just stronger, and you still need a license or a prescription or whatever to get medical grade stuff. Yeah. So we didn't get to mess around with any of that, but it just wasn't too prevalent in, it's not like stoners walking around everywhere. From what I understand, alcohol sales are actually up. In fact, the economy is just doing really well now with it out there, and nothing is really suffering from it.
I wonder how it changes the conversation about it I've had discussions about marijuana multiple times over the years with various people, and I wonder how it changes the discussion to be in a state where it is legal compared to a state. There's two states where it's legal recreationally now, Washington and Colorado. I wonder how it changes the conversation about it in that state.
From what I understand, well, Colorado is interesting because Colorado actually has a lot of conservatives. It's actually, they're really, really pro-gun.
I thought Colorado was generally a relatively liberal state, except for Colorado Springs, which is a relatively conservative city.
Well, I know that the conservatives have a very loud voice and active presence, and they get their guns. Maybe not conservative in the traditional party line sense, but people in Colorado like having guns.
Okay, well, that's one issue.
Sure. But it's a pretty generally considered left issue, right? And marijuana is generally considered right issue. Like, it's interesting to find a state where people want their guns and they want their weed. If you look at traditional Democrat Republican party lines, it's kind of two ends of the extreme a little bit. I think maybe, I'm not a political expert. I'm just, I think it's a little interesting that it's not like, it's not the most liberal place in the universe or whatever. Gay marriage wasn't legalized there first. Gay marriage was legalized in Iowa first. So I don't know. Anyway, from what I understand, my cousin's take on it was that people in Colorado either completely love it or they completely hate that marijuana is legal and there's no middle ground. And that showing the tax revenue and what it's done to society and all that stuff has not changed anybody's mind. They're either totally for it or totally against it. And that's just kind of how it is. So that was his take. Maybe that's just a Denver area thing. But yeah, I don't know. I would imagine they'd be happy with the tax revenue. And again, if you experience this, if you go to, we went to one that was next door to a coffee shop called holycoffee.donuts. Spelled out.
Okay.
holycoffee.donuts, run by two old hippies. There's holycoffee.donuts, who were really nice, by the way. Next to that is a marijuana growing facility, like an Ace Hardware for weed fertilizer. Next door to that's a dispensary, and next door to that is like a liquor store or something. But the normalcy, you got to go and experience how it's just in a strip mall with places you've seen 1,000 times before. You walk in, your hand is held every step of the purchasing process. Everything's explained to you very clearly, and they let you go, and you go home, and then in privacy of your own home, you get high, and it's fine, and no one is harmed. And the state gets a ridiculous amount of tax money. I cannot believe it's not legal more places. It's got to start soon.
Yeah. It sounds a lot like alcohol there. Like, it just sounds a lot like how you buy and consume alcohol.
True. Yes.
Except I would say that. Except you can go to a place with alcohol. You can go to a place and do it in public and then leave, but you can't do it in between those places. You can't do it not at the bar, and you can't do it not at home or in like a private place. Like, those are like the two places you can consume alcohol. Weed basically just cuts out the bar.
Yeah. I would say, let's say I really liked reading books while high. I would say it'd be very easy for me to go with somebody to a bookstore, and I didn't actually do this, but since I spent a lot of times in bookstores, I'm hypothesizing, and I could just bring a gummy with me, sit down at the table, eat a gummy real quick, and then, whatever. I don't even know if that's illegal or not. Again, I didn't do it, but I'd imagine it'd be pretty easy to still participate in things, while under the influence. So you could kind of do it. It just wouldn't be a social smoking thing when you're out. So I don't know. And I was told that there are some concert venues where there's pot everywhere. Everyone's just smoking weed constantly.
You mean like the rest of the country?
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's really how different is that? Yeah. So there's that aspect of it that I think has bothered some people. Because our friend Logan was like, yeah, I can't take my kid to a concert at this venue because everyone is high the whole time. It's like, I get it. It's a lot of shows.
Also, your kid's under 2, so probably not going to venues where people are going to be smoking a ton yet anyway.
I mean, probably, yeah, there's that. But yeah, dude, it's super normal. I mean, yeah, it's just cool. You should check it out sometime. It's I think part of the coolness is how normal it is and how integrated it is. It just seems like a good idea to me.
There's a good chance that by the time that I get to Colorado, unfortunately, it's going to be legal in my state. I mean, because I imagine it feels like the tide is turning on it. And I think it's certainly only a matter of time. The question is how long before it becomes a legal thing,
right,
at a countrywide level. So
I think the smart states will get a jump on it, because the states that are smart will say, we're going to make it legal and tax the hell out of it.
Well, you look at Colorado, and again, I'm just assuming this, but I think it's a pretty safe assumption that they probably have a lot of tourist attraction there, because they already have a lot of great tourist attractions. They have mountains, they have a lot of skiing, a lot of snowboarding there. That's a huge draw. And then also to have this on top of it, where people can go, they can do those activities, and then they can also legally smoke marijuana or consume marijuana when they're there. The amount of money that those tourists then bring in is probably huge.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So tell me about leaving. So you bought all this marijuana and consumed it, and you had bought a piece and you used it, and then you got to get on a plane because you flew.
Yeah, so I could have scrubbed and run the piece and the terrible $5 grinder we got through a dishwasher and been fine. Okay. Brought it back. Or maybe wiped off all the resin and everything, made sure it's perfectly clean, maybe mailed it or something. But I just didn't feel like it. So I just left it with our host.
Okay.
I said, here's a piece. You've got a piece now. Here's a grinder. You've got a grinder now. Here's some weed. You got a weed now.
So what's it like when you go through the airport and you are leaving the only state where marijuana is legal? I mean, I'm assuming some people have marijuana with them.
I don't know. Honestly, security just seemed totally standard. It was just like airport security at O'Hare. They didn't even have a full body scanner. We just walked to security, went through the metal detector. They put our bags through, and that was kind of it. So I don't know. I've not ever tried to smuggle weed anywhere, so I don't know.
Okay.
I do know that right now, you can, as an out-of-stater, if you have an out-of-state ID, you can buy up to 7 grams of weed in a day while you're visiting. But as of October 2016, they're going to make that 2 grams per day, which probably makes more sense, because I don't think a lot of people are going to smoke 7 grams of weed in a day. They have different things for that. You can buy, for example, I think you could buy more of certain edibles than that. You could buy a certain number of milligrams more than that, because the conversion rate's different. So I don't know, but I think that's probably to curb out of state smuggling. Basically, I would imagine there's people in Nebraska that cross the border, buy a bunch of weed every day, and then come back. So I'd imagine that'd be to curb that, which makes sense. But they're tweaking it. But I think it's quite the successful experiment. And seriously, states need to legalize this individually to get all that tax revenue, because if the government decriminalizes it or whatever, and the government starts to put a federal tax on it, which I don't know if that's a thing they can do, but I don't know. I feel like the federal government might try to get their hands on some of that money, and maybe the state should legalize it faster so they can get all the money first. I could be wrong though.
Or you just end up paying 2 types of tax.
Yeah, there's that.
You pay a state and a federal tax.
It's totally worth it, though. Death Star is awesome. That's all I have to say.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you had a good. It sounds like you had a good trip.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, if anybody goes to Colorado, check out our variety of dispensaries. The Green Solution is the best. It's a gold standard. if they start trading on the stock market, I am 100% buying it. Like, no doubt this company could be the next, like, literally McDonald's or Coca-Cola of the US if it becomes a national thing. They've already got at least a few in the Denver area. It's just like super slick, high tech. They know what they're doing. It was a good time. So yeah, man, I don't know. You want to get high, man? Just calling me. What the hell?
That was good. It sounds. I'm glad you had a good trip. Vacations are always vacations for the most part. Kind of no matter what you're doing, are always pretty good.
I hope you found that interesting and educational.
I did. I absolutely did. It's super,
like
it's super interesting because it's such like a unique thing to Colorado and then obviously to Washington, which is very far away. So it's not like that is. It's such a unique thing to have that be legal there.
Yeah, it's unique and really interesting. And I just didn't realize how many different ways there were to smoke. This guy explained dabbing. You take a super highly concentrated resin and you put it on the end of this elaborate looking glass piece. I can't even describe it. And you literally take a blowtorch and blowtorch it until it's super hot. The vapor goes down into this chamber and then you smoke out of that. And it supposedly is super highly concentrated and gets you really high and is a totally different smoking experience, is what he described. I was like, dude, it would take me $100 in a week to figure this out. So I'm just going to not do this. But dabbing, sounding, there's a lot of stuff, man. It's pretty cray. It's very cray.
Super
cray. Not as cray, though, is the other part of my vacation. To wrap up the podcast, you've been anticipating me mention this the whole episode. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I don't.
John Martin.
I actually have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about, John Martin. What part of my trip did I not talk about? What button did I not press?
The flight?
WrestleMania.
Oh, I was joking when I said we should talk about that.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Was it really bad?
I won't talk that much about it, but the actual WrestleMania show this year was over 4 hours long. Is that right? Yeah, it was over 4 hours long. And the pre-show in front of the live crowd was 2 hours long.
Oh my God, that's a 6 hour show of wrestling.
Some people were there for over 6 hours of wrestling.
Holy crap.
And by the end of the show, the crowd, you could tell, was just dead. They were just, I mean, part of it was they didn't care about the main event, but I mean, really the only highlight, the match of the night was the women's championship match. WWE is actually giving women's wrestling a really big push. And
women's wrestling has always been awful.
Dude, yeah. Every review I've read of WrestleMania has said that this is the best women's match in the history of WrestleMania.
That's awesome.
And they're retiring the Divas Championship and, in fact, the term Diva, and it is now the WWE Women's Championship.
Good for them.
So that's really cool. I think it's really cool. It was an exceptional match. And but overall, not the best WrestleMania, but it was better with Logan commentary. Logan's commentary was amazing. You can probably imagine.
Absolutely. Where'd you guys watch it?
At the place where we were staying.
Sweet.
Just on the WWE network. I think they have an ordinance in Colorado that you can't show pay-per-views on TV, because every bar I called, as soon as I was like, oh, it's on pay-per-view, they were like, oh, we can't show that. So
interesting.
Whatever. Fine. Whatever, Denver. When next WWE pay-per-view, Payback, is in Chicago. So do you want me to buy tickets and you can pay me back, or do you just want to fly down here and
when is it?
See if we can get? Did you ask me what day it was?
I did. When is it? I'm busy that day.
Well then.
Really though, when is it?
I don't know. It's on a Sunday.
Obviously, it's very important to you too.
It's Sunday, April something. I don't care. I stopped caring about it.
Soon? Didn't they just have one? Holy crap!
Yeah. Well, this is WWE, man. a company.
This is a good time to see. This is a good time for us to wrap up because now your internet is completely crapping out. So this is good. This is probably better this way. You're totally frozen. As is standard.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm willing to wrap the show up myself. Very nice. You're frozen again.
I'm back.
I'm back. Your internet's awful.
I'm back.
It's awful. It's really bad. Okay. So this is a good time to wrap up. So, as you know, we are members of the Gonna Geek Network. It is a network of podcasts, many different podcasts regarding geeky things. So, a couple of things that are going on in our network. On Nerd Alert News, most recent episode is Return of the Mythbusters. There's some great news stories this week. Plot details on Mass Effect Andromeda have come out. The Oculus Rift founder hand delivers the first Rift. Did you hear about this? They hand delivered the first Oculus Rift to the first backer in Alaska. He flew up there. Only he didn't. They didn't include like any of. I want to say it's like the cords or something. Like he couldn't hook it up. So it was funny. It was kind of a funny story. And Deadpool is officially the highest grossing rated R movie in the world. The featured story this week is that the Science Channel is bringing back the Mythbusters, but with a bit of a twist. There will be a reality series to find new Mythbusters before launching the next generation in a brand new show. And then on All Things Good and Nerdy, it's the show of randomness. Willie couldn't be here for the show of randomness, but have no worries. Chris, Naki, and Anthony were able to pick up the slack. Before getting into news, there was an unofficial review of Batman vs. Superman, despite 2/3 of the panel having not seen the movie. After the review, Chris had details on how Deadpool is the highest grossing rated R movie. Anthony had some rumors regarding reshoots with Suicide Squad, and Naki had set photos from Doctor Strange for everyone to drool over.
Good stuff on the Gonna Geek Network at GonnaGeek.com.
You can find us there too.
Can you now?
I think so.
Yeah, you can.
There's some other places you can find us too.
There are. Well, yeah, and we'll get to those. I should also public service announcement. We do not here at Game Life Balance U.S. promote the use of illegal drugs or substances. Realized I forgot to tack that on. It was fun experimenting with the marijuanas when it was in a legal state. I did not break any laws.
That's good. You probably shouldn't.
Nope. So, listener, do not break laws. Do not smoke weed every day. It's from a Dr. Dre song.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what else I'd like to do? I'd like to thank you, listener, for listening to the Game Life Balance U.S. podcast, the American edition of the Game Life Balance podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe if you liked this episode. Really, we would love it if you would do that, or leave us a review if you'd really like to make our day. And that you can find us on iTunes or Stitcher to do that. You can also find us on the Gonna Geek Network at GonnaGeek.com, or on the official podcast of network of Wow. How about I read?
Whoa, holy
How about I read, John? You can find us on the Gonna Geek Network at GonnaGeek.com, or on the official podcast network of Chicago's WGN Radio at WGNplus.com. Learn more about Game Life Balance, including contact information and links to our sister show in Australia at GameLifeBalance.us. Our sister show is pretty awesome.
Speaking of, our sister show just posted their 3rd episode.
You should listen to it.
Yeah.
I know you don't listen to our podcast, so the chance of me getting you to listen to their podcast is very slim. But now that we've identified that you literally have a doppelganger in Australia,
I have a much higher chance of listening to their podcast than ever listening to ours.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Wow. So 1%. We'll give it a 1%.
It's better than 0.5.
Yes. Checkmate. Damn you. Ah!